Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Complicated Creation. This will be Part 8, Chapter 7, entitled A Bridge Between. Moving is good, Izuku thinks. They need to keep moving. They have to cross the first bridge, and then he knows there's a waypoint into the marketplace. It's a bit of a risk, taking Eraserhead there, but the alternate route would take ages. For now, they need to move forward, and Izuku needs to think about what Eraserhead said to him. Was it okay to use his ability? Obviously he couldn't do what he'd done when he was 8, when he'd clung to his mother's spirit and desperately tried to make it his instead. That had been what had convinced his mother that the spirits were real. Well, that and the way they'd come for him after, as the word slowly spread. But his favors weren't like that, and while he'd burnt himself on Zar, that had been because he'd physically held the spirit, and that was his own stupidity. He could have reached out with just his power. And he hadn't done anything to hurt Hitoshi's spirit, or the two in Aizawa's forest, and he didn't want to hurt them. Everyone just always assumed he would. Was that like having a villainous quirk? Izuku had always argued that no quirk was bad inherently, because he'd seen people with terrible quirks and horrible spirits become great heroes, or just perfectly normal people. Was he actually like that? But he never took power, and he only took names if he had no other choice. Was self-defense enough? It is a lot to think about. Of course, Eraserhead also seemed to have a lot on his mind. And you're sure it doesn't? I haven't done anything to him. It's not a control thing or a power thing, right? Problem Child is supposed to be a nickname. And it is, Tamon assures with great patience. You have done no harm. As we have said, only that it was given here makes it special. It makes it real. No one has been able to tell me how real is different from true or any of that, Eraserhead grumbles, and it's actually funny, and maybe strangely nice, how worried he is about something so simple. I don't want to have made things worse. You didn't, Izuku assures all over again as they stop at the edge of the plain, a swaying bridge hanging across the chasm before them. What Tamon means is that it's a name I can give out that has meaning right away, like Deku or Eraserhead or even Tamon. They're all basically nicknames, but it being real means it's a name I actually use and have power to. Well, I can make a contract with it. Like with Aizawa. My agreement with him was with Deku, and I could now use Problem Child instead, but I couldn't use, Nanashi and act like that was my name because it isn't. Names have to have weight, Izuku knows. They have to be something you use and others use for you. The glowing, though. You had me worrying that was the spirit world version of, I own you now or something. Oh, Izuku laughs at the idea, though he can see why Eraserhead was worried. No, it's okay. I think the glowing was more... This place is special sometimes. It's complicated. Complicated, Eraserhead says, shoulder sagging. Right. Well, if you're sure. I promise. Izuku gives the most reassuring smile he can, and then gestures at the bridge. We just have to cross here. Then I think I'll be better able to get us somewhere to get home. Eraserhead moves to stand beside him. Problem Child. It makes Izuku smile just hearing it. It's not a mean nickname at all. It's honestly so true, and it feels good that Eraserhead wants to call him something special at all. This thing doesn't exactly look like it'll support your weight. Never mind mine. Izuku looks at the first bridge, and then looks at it like he's Eraserhead and sees the problem. At least this is an easy fix. Don't worry, he assures. I've taken it before, and so do other spirits. It's just this old-looking because it's the first bridge. It's actually the first wooden rope bridge, Tamon offers gracefully. The first bridge that wasn't just a log across the river is much less impressive and is quite far away. Still, looks like it's being held together by luck and a prayer. Eraserhead sounds uncertain, surprisingly, and Izuku can admit maybe the bridge doesn't look that reassuring. It probably doesn't help that the chasm that it crosses is really, really deep, and the things at the bottom of it aren't friendly. Are those eyes? It's the watching river, Izuku explains. It's pretty nasty, but we're too far above for it to bother us. You just can't look down while we cross, or they'll try to make you jump. Eraserhead looks back at him, and again Izuku's not sure what the expression even is. When the hero doesn't say anything, Izuku shifts, wondering if he said something wrong. Do you not like heights? Eraserhead says something under his breath and then turns to Tamon. Do I even want to ask why? The bridge? She's having fun, Izuku knows, but he doesn't try to stop her. It must be nice for a spirit as good as this one to really be able to communicate with her human, and that will end when they go home. Oh, when the humans were done with it, the gods thought it would do better here. It is the spirit of the bridge. It will hold. Eraserhead says something like, of course it will, and then nods back at Izuku. So we cross. Yeah, just make sure not to look down. You can cross pretty well if you hold the ropes and just stay centered. But if you look down, the river will try to pull you in. Eraserhead looks like he wants to say something, but he changes his mind and sets his hands on either side of the rope and starts walking. The bridge sways as they walk, and Izuku focuses on shifting his weight opposite to the older man as they move along. The wooden slats are close enough together that they don't have to watch where they're going, at least. Do you think he's upset at me? Izuku finally caves and asks Tamon when they're a quarter of the way across, the kitsune following at his heels. He is upset at himself. He thinks if you are this unflappable here, he doesn't know how he'd teach you in your world. He likes to surprise his students. Izuku feels his face burn in embarrassment. I'm just used to it. I've had a long time to get used to everything here. Besides, he teaches at UA. Tamon laughs. I know that, and I dare say he knows where he teaches as well, don't you think? Izuku decides to ignore her because he has no idea what to say about that. He's never going to get into UA. He hasn't been to a proper school in years. They're halfway across the bridge when there's a screech from below. Izuku knows not to look down, but it's exceptionally hard, as the sound of wings beat through the air. A moment later, two large women appear, covered in feathers and with wide wings, where their arms would be, and hooked, black talons for feet. Oh shit, Izuku breathes out. Human! The one on the right has ruddy feathers, the other's a soft sort of bluish-gray. They weren't here the last time Izuku had made the trek, but maybe they'd built a nest in the cliffs. Some creatures were immune to the river's effects. Human! You brought us a meal! Little Deku, how kind! They're on a bridge that sways in the air when they move their weight, and they can't look down. This is the worst possible place for a fight. Please don't do this, he pleads. I've already had a fight with Aizawa and his followers today. I don't want to have to hurt you too. Then don't fight us, they cackle. They're Harpies, Izuku remembers now. He's only seen their kind a few times. They almost never bond with humans and tend to stick to other areas of the spirit realm. We just want the human. Call it a toll for using our bridge. Then you two can pass. Tamon bristles. You will leave us or you will regret what happens next. They fly below the bridge. Izuku knows he can't wait and risk Eraserhead. As awful as it feels to intentionally and willfully break his promise once more, he reaches for the power he has and toward the bright points of energy that the two spirits represent, reaching and... The bridge is knocked from below, and he loses his balance and looks down. Shota Aizawa knows a few things to be true. 1. He is going to have a hell of a time explaining this when he gets back. He's working on a plan for that. 2. Deku needs more help than he can probably provide alone, but like fuck if he isn't going to look after this kid. 3. Tamon is terrifying, and he never wants to piss her off. Deku goes down, and Shota nearly follows him, if not for the way his spirit literally covers his face with one of her tails. Looking down is a threat, right, and then the kitsune howls, and it chills him to his bones. While whatever they'd fought in the forest might have held its own against her, these two flying women seem to have no hope at all. For one thing, his spirit can very nearly fly herself. Shota watches as she jumps into the air and seems to run on nothing to twist and turn and attack the spirits before landing so gently on the bridge that it doesn't so much as tremble under her weight. She glows, which has happened every time he's seen her fight so far, and Shota tries to keep an eye on her and the monster women, and Deku without looking down. It's a blessing his quirk is eyesight-based, at a time like this, not that using it has any effect. It means he's incredibly skilled at being able to look at something out of the corner of his eye and follow a fight without changing his focus. It means he can tell that his spirit looks to have things well in hand, and that Deku looks like he's one good shove away from falling through the ropes and right off the side. Shota grips the ropes that line the sides and makes his way back to Deku, who's staring down at the river. Kid, he calls, but there's no response. Deku. Still no response. Shota kneels cautiously. He's figured out that seeing things out of the corner of his eye is fine, as far as the weird river rules are concerned. which is good considering Deku's still fixated on the water with his eyes glazed. "Problem, child?" Above him are sounds of Tamon and the spirits fighting, far too close. Shota quickly grabs Deku, wrapping his arms firmly around the boy's skinny chest, and his other hand wraps around the rope railing. He braces just in time as the three spirits crash into the bridge and send it swinging wildly. For a moment he prays, and then, realizing he's praying in a world of spirits and gods, he has to wonder if he's praying, who can hear him, and God? What if they answer? He is so not built for this sort of existential crisis. The bridge holds. Shota's not going to call that a miracle because miracles need gods, and still not thinking about that. He focuses instead on making sure Deku doesn't fall while the bridge sways and creaks like a bad movie prop. He wants to try to cover Deku's eyes and see if that breaks whatever spell he's under, but he doesn't dare change his grip yet. He hears another screech from the Harpies, and he looks up just in time to see them dive towards his spirit and for her to flash bright, bright white, blinding him for a moment. His vision is filled with black spots that he has to blink away slowly, but when he does, Tamon has settled behind him and Deku, and the women who attacked them are nowhere to be seen. The fox spirit licks her lips, showing fang. "They have been dealt with," she informs him, clearly satisfied. "I will take the kit. He will not be able to break free of the river's hold until he is away from it." Shota peels himself away almost warily, but he can't find a reason to argue. Not when he really wants at least one hand free to hold the rope, and both would be preferable, the way the bridge is still swinging. He trusts her. He can't not trust her. "All right," he says, letting go as she leans in. He wonders for a moment how she's going to carry Deku, if she can do so with her mouth without her teeth getting in the way. He grips the rope handrails in surprise as she starts to shift, and it's very nearly instant, the change from giant fox to Japanese woman. But it isn't instant enough, and he really wants to forget the strangeness of that in-between phase. She grins up at him, her sharp teeth black against the pale white of her face, and she picks up Deku with ease, despite her many layers of kimono. She's dressed like a Heian-era reenactor, or like the Empress during her enthronement ceremony. She's awash in silk, white on shades of red and orange on white, and her hem and sleeve spill across the width of the bridge, pulling around her feet. She seems to notice he's staring, because she gives him an all-too-knowing smile. "Well?" He finds himself struck uncomfortably dumb. She's beautiful. He does not usually think of anyone as beautiful. He wonders if he's actually thinking it now, or if it's somehow some part of her spiritness, some strange area of effect the way Kayama's quirk works. He manages to untangle his tongue enough to ask, "Did I know you could do that?" "Oh, I doubt it." The laughter is clear in her voice. "You did like to sleep through any class that dipped into mythology. I seem to recall you telling someone that what a bunch of old farts believe 1,000 years ago won't be useful when you're a hero." That does sound like something he'd say. "I don't remember that." "Oh, you were still young." She nudges him forward, making her way across the bridge, with Deku in her arms. "Perhaps 12. I'll admit, we don't pay that much attention to age. Time moves so differently for us." Shota lets that thought settle in the back of his head as he properly heads back towards the other side. "So, you've been watching me since I was a kid. Do you follow me all the time?" "Oh, all spirits check in on their humans," she says, very nearly coy. She's clearly enjoying herself. "Some only occasionally. We don't need to be around at all, of course, but when your human is a hero, it's so much more interesting than anything else we do. I do sometimes come home, but I always try to return when you use your quirk. I wish to be with you when you use my power." He gets a moment to ponder that before she adds, her voice lilting and playful, "Don't worry, Shota. I leave you to your private moments." He does not blush. He is a grown-ass adult who does not blush. Instead, he changes the topic. "Why's the kid still out?" "The river is made of the memories of Mokumokurin," the kitsune explains. "It takes the mind and draws you in until it can add you to its collection. He is still under their control." Surprisingly, Shota knows this one. "Wait. The eyeballs that live in Shoji, those are a river." He can't see her, but somehow her voice seems to shrug. "Our natures can change over time. They had less and less of a home to settle in. As Japan modernized, they found a new purpose here." And Deku handles all of this like it's normal, he mutters as they finally cross the last third of the bridge. The closer they are to the anchor, the less it sways, and he really wants to get to solid ground before he loses his lunch. Kid doesn't even know how unsettling it is. This is his normal, she chides, voice firm. We have been his normal for years. He has seen the heart of humanity's fears and hopes and desires, the best and the worst of us, and yet he still helps. He is such a good kid. Shota's feet are on solid ground, and he turns to watch Tamon step off the bridge behind him. They make their way from the cliff edge, and then she settles Deku onto the grass. Shota realizes he's probably not going to get another chance to ask this. He's a good kid, he agrees, but something still bothers him. But what is he? If he's not entirely human, as the Kitsune had said. She kneels by Deku and shifts, suddenly that momentary horrifying translation between one shape and another still incredibly unsettling. Her fox face is somehow even more easy to read now, as though we can see her human features superimposed over the contours of her muzzle. I thought it would be obvious, she says, like Shota is a particularly slow student. He is a bridge between us all. All right, listeners, this concludes the first half to Chapter 7 of Complicated Creation. The second half to this chapter will be up next. I hope you all are still enjoying this one. Let me know your thoughts and reactions to everything so far. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.